doing strip grazing with our herd of livestock. This particular herd, I think there's 38 bulls in here. And what we're doing is we're going across the landscape, making them go back to water. And so this is the perfect grazing height that we're leaving behind. The animals came in, it was about 10 to 12 inches high. When we left it, it's about 7 to 8 inches high. And so if we take off, I'll just pull one. See where the animals took that tip off right there? Okay. When they went in, it would have looked more like that. It's got the real sharp tip on it. And so we're looking at our plants, making sure that we have nice recovered tips on it, more like that versus chewed off. If you come all the way around your farm in your rotation, I don't care if it's 30 days or 60 days, you'd like to see this back with a tip on it. Okay, so this is what I'm leaving behind. So it catches a lot of sunlight, it grows back quickly. Also, the more that we leave like this, when it gets hot and dry, it adds some cover down in there. If you get a rain, it's going to catch it all, it's not going to run off. And it also acts as a windbreak. So as the wind goes across your farm, it's hitting all this, it's keeping it from sucking all the moisture out of your soil. Now, how do you know when the plants are completely recovered? Well, I already showed you the tips, but let's look. See, all these plants, I'm not going to pull that off because I want a cow to eat that. You can see everything in here's got tips on it. There's some Indian grass in here. There's some big blue stem. There's quite a bit of fescue. That is our main grass. Here's some clover. This is red clover. Okay, got some of that in here. Of course, the fescue is what we call dormant right now. It is July 12th. It's hot. It gets up in the 90s. Fescue is a cool season grass. So they call that the summer slump. It stops growing in the summertime. So it's nice to have some of these summer annuals, and actually the big blue stem is a summer perennial. It comes on every year. You never have to plant it. If you don't rotate, you give your animals the whole farm, you're not going to see any big blue stem. They'll completely graze it off of your farm. So what we're trying to do here is, again, take the top part of the plant, and if you look down in here, you can see my litter bank. This is all trampled on the ground this winter. So this would have been grass that was grown last fall, and the animals came in and ate it, but they also trampled some of it. This is your litter. Folks, you gotta have some ground litter down on your ground. That is your, we call it our soil armor. It's an armor, look at that. It's keeping the ground cool, it's capturing the rainwater, and it also provides a microclimate for all your beautiful soil microbes. Yeah. And you can see this is an earthworm casting right there. So that would have been pooped out in the spring when we had water. I can actually see critters in there moving. Look at that. All kinds of little critters. The reason the critters in there is because I've got this armor keeping the sunlight. Look at that one. Ooh, that's a beaut. It's a big old earthworm turd. So the earthworm ate this and turned it into that. And a casting has a pH of 7. It's perfect. You can see holes going down in the ground. Do you all know that an earthworm hole stays in the ground for 30 years? What's so great about that? I can tell you what's great about that. When you get a rain and you've got millions of earthworm holes all over your farm, it's going to let the water go in. You're going to grow more grass. And the pH is, when you keep it at 7, your plants are just going to crank. You don't need any ammonium nitrate. You don't need all this chemical fertilizer. It's just been a lie that's been sold to farmers. You got to have it or you won't have any grass. We didn't fertilize this. This has all been done by the cattle. But we gave it the litter. So, folks, when you don't graze it all in the winter, people say, but, oh, if you don't graze it all, you're wasting it. No, you're not. You're not wasting it. You're feeding the soil. Your sole purpose when on grazing is you should feed the animals above the ground, but you also need to leave some behind for your soil critters. You got to feed them too. you know, they got to have a buffet. And if you keep the ground covered, they will pay you back. And there's a term in grazing business, and this came straight from Ian Mitchell Ennis, my South African friend that helps me in our grazing school that we hold here. He said sometimes a grass blade trampled on the ground by a hoof, that gives you two back, okay? It's worth more to trample than it is to put inside of a cow sometimes, when you're trying to build soil especially. So every grass blade trampled gives you two back. Folks, that's a darn good return on your investment. It's 100% return. So that's what we did here. We're in a major drought. We haven't had any rain this spring and summer. Look at this. Does it look like we're in a drought? Not bragging, I'm just saying management, folks. Management is the difference between making a good living on the farm and not making a good living. So you gotta move them, you gotta watch what's going on. If you don't get any rain, you need to sell some animals. We call that destocking some. You gotta get some animals off your farm because it's not raining. You're not growing anything back. If you keep that same number of animals all through the year, you're gonna graze your farm into the dirt and then you're out, you're done. Well, the only time I chop and drop is when I get into a brush issue. If I have a lot of brush coming into a paddock, like trees that landowners don't want in there, and they're saying, Greg, you're not gonna let our farm go back to brush, or you gotta go in there and brush hog that, or you will lose the lease on that farm. It's that simple. Just remember, folks, when you get in the land leasing business, the landowners are always right. Even if they're not, they're right, because they're the ones that hold the purse strings. They can kick you off if you don't do what they want. So it's just part of the business. You know, you gotta make sure you keep them happy.